nuclear power plant that had the radiation accident, the worst in history. So these areas are basically what is happening with the activity of the Russians here. Now, everybody had been focused on the Donbas region. This is still an active theater, and what we see here is movements directly this way of Russian equipment into this area. Mainly we're talking about self-propelled howitzers, guns, things like that that can actually be moved forward in a way that would help infantry units take further areas in this area. So when you combine all of this, you actually have a situation where you can bring in all the different pieces to bear. So we're talking aircraft, we're talking missiles, we're talking rockets that are fired at all of these different areas, and you see what parts of Ukraine they're actually covering it. And it's a major area in that sense.
Just from a strategic standpoint, obviously we don't know the mind of Vladimir Putin
fucking
or
hell.
generals at this point, but just from your military knowledge, does it make more sense to surround a city like Kharkiv and kind of come back to it later if you're trying to establish control over the entire country? I mean, do you want to try to get troops on the ground in as many places as possible to lock it down and then move in on heavily populated cities, or do you do that all at once?
Well, sometimes it really depends on what your ultimate goal is. If the ultimate goal is, like we think it might be, that they take over Kiev, then, and to basically decapitate the Ukrainian government, then it would make sense to surround and bypass cities like Kharkiv. Go over, take the big objective first, and then go back and take care of the rest. Kind of a mopping up operation would be what they would do in that case. So it really depends on the ultimate goal, but I think what they're going to be doing is they're going to go for Kiev, and they're going to do it in a way that would decapitate the government that exists there. That's at least going to be their attempt.
And that's what President Zelensky said tonight, that he believes Russian sabotage groups have already entered the Ukrainian capital.
Unstable?
That is, in fact, Vladimir Putin's...
How's that unstable?
What is stopping him from taking it, essentially? I mean, do we know much about the defenses? You know, it seems like Ukraine in general was always pushing back.
Sometimes this fucking kills me. I don't know why it was saying unstable. Obviously it was not unstable. I'm unstable. Vladimir Putin is unstable. The internet connection to Twitch is not unstable. Sorry. I had to cover up Carson. I always called him Tucker Carlson. But Anderson Cooper's face. I don't want to get lawsuit there. And also, I had it up there. That's where I put the captions too. How did this guy know? I'm trying to watch some different shit. I've been watching other stuff, so I got a bunch of other feeds pulled up. I'll switch to them eventually.
Concluded that it couldn't be taken care of and modernized in a way that would have prevented the air superiority that the Russian Air Force.
It's funny when I got the cursor over here, it like darkens it. But when I take the cursor off it.
We also want to take a look further ahead, if it's possible, to get some sense of what Vladimir Putin's next steps might be. Not to mention all we can glean about what might affect his decision making. Joining us for that, David Remnick. He is, in addition to being editor of The New Yorker, also a noted Russia observer, reporter, and historian, as well as author of the indispensable book Lenin's Tomb, The Last Days of the Soviet Empire. So, David, you heard President Biden talk about this in his speech today, Putin's desire to remake the Soviet Union. Do you think that is actually, I mean, it may be an ideological aim, do you think it's an actual realistic thing he believes he could achieve?
I think in the sense that Biden seemed to be talking about the recreation of this old Soviet Union. And
I'll pretend like I'm talking to this guy.
And are now independent nations.
How did they get them to be like that?
Really
I guess
possible, but crazily expensive. Why did empire collapse all over the world historically? Not only the Soviet Union, but Austria-Hungary and all the rest. Empire is expensive. Russia is not a wealthy country in the main. Its entire economy is the size of the economy of Texas.
Well, Texas sometimes they want to be their own country, so. But all I keep hearing about, I don't know. I could be wrong. I heard that they're like export, like they're like the #2 exporter and fucking.
We also saw something.
of like oil and natural gas in the world or something. Wouldn't that make them pretty wealthy? I don't know. Saudi Arabia and shit's pretty wealthy. Maybe it's because they got a bigger country and like there's this way more military. But shouldn't a lot of that like I'm sure they haven't made new nuclear weapons in like all these years. Like they're probably still holdovers from the old school days. So I don't know what like. So I don't know. They're talking about it being poor, and yeah, but I think there'd be more fucked now than they were before. But who knows? But this guy's a historian, so I guess he knows more than I do.
Against him, and so we're
To-
coming to a reckoning here. We're internal.
My
Russian
goal is to
politics
keep
are
what is the significance
Anderson
of
Cooper's
Ukraine?
face hidden.
I mean, when you decide to take territory by force, why start with Ukraine?
Well, it's the one closest to it,
a
right?
logical person, whether it's just on sheer strategy, to say nothing of moral logic, would tell you that you're probably not going to seduce a country back into the fold by dropping missiles on it, by bombing it. History is full of examples of this kind of quote unquote seduction through military means, and
That sounds like a rape, right?
It's quite likely that if Vladimir Putin wants to, his armed forces can take Kiev, can arrest Zelensky, and install a puppet government. But then what? How long does that last? How expensive is that? What do Russians?
Yeah, like,
think about
wouldn't
this?
it be
As the
horrible for them?
information
Like,
begins-
I almost believe, don't get me wrong, I don't trust Putin, but I almost believe that he doesn't want to take over the country and, like, run it per se, because as we know, when, we try to run, like all the other fucking countries we tried to run, it's pretty fucking expensive and it's hard, it's not easy, you know what I'm saying? And it's not like it used to be, like in like the 1800s or even longer ago. So I don't see that being like occupy. That's the word I was trying to look for. He even said that, but so I almost believe him there, but who knows? Like why?
When the Soviet Union invaded Czechoslovakia, 8 people went to Red Square and unfurled banners against that invasion for less than a minute, and they were beaten by the KGB and arrested and sent to prison and all the rest. But that, in many ways, was the beginning of a dissident movement, a serious dissident movement in the Soviet Union that had incredible repercussions.
If Putin is able to take over Ukraine,
I
and as you
don't
said,
see that
what
happening.
then? I mean, does he hold the country?
He's not going to take over the whole country. I just don't see that happening.
There had been talk of the possibility of a future insurgency if there's a Russian occupying force. Do you think that's realistic? Obviously, we've seen a lot.
That
of people
happens in
just
every
kind of flee the
country where, like,
and
right,
they can't.
like if
Now
you believe it's
males
right or
they
wrong.
have to stay in Ukraine.
That's what happened in
Do
any
you see-
country
well,
we invaded.
How
Like
do you see it happen? What does it look like?
you
for
had
Russia?
the I got to cover up.
For me, the lowest form of
okay.
journalism is prediction. I'm not a gambling man, but it is
lowest
potentially
form. He just called you out, Anderson.
very
He's,
prolonged,
hello,
something
Mr. Anderson.
extremely
You've been
expensive
called
and
out.
and treasure.
You were
We've
trying to
seen
predict
it
stuff. He said
in
that's the
our South
lowest
American
form. The
other
lowest.
instances. We've seen it in the Middle East. We've seen it in South Asia. I don't.
But there'll always be
the
some sort of
question
guerrilla
here
warfare if, like, they don't, like, there's going to be some people that don't want Russians there, so yeah, they would be fighting something like that.
Toward what end? How in any way does this help bring prosperity or even security to Russia? What threat is he responding to?
He was paranoid about NATO because he figured,
Is NATO
so,
threatening Russia?
oh, he's
No,
throwing it.
I think that Putin, in large measure, not to make this into a novel, but in large measure, is responding to his own self-drama as a man of great power and wanting to expand Russian power, revive Russian power after his failure to bring prosperity to Russia after 22 years in power.
David Remnick, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you.
I mean, I think that's part of it too. Like, is that the reason he's scared? Like, he knew. Like, I don't know what. I don't know enough to know if, because I've heard that they said we were never gonna. Well, not we, but NATO was never going to. Ooh, CVS or what's this old woman get silver sneakers? Don't you want silver sneakers? You can do that. But if he was going to invade, if they had joined NATO, like, from my understanding, like, if someone attacked a NATO country, then there's like no choice. We have to militarily intervene. And when I say we, I do mean USA, but I also mean other NATO nations. You know, but like obviously, you know, military power wise, USA is bigger than, you know, like, I don't know, Romania or some other like small member of NATO, right? So maybe that's why he went ahead and did it now, because a part of him did think that they might join, even though I've heard some tales that they were never gonna. And I keep saying we, but NATO, I guess, because I mean, I'm unilaterally, America does not run NATO. I'm not that. I'm not one of those stupid Americans. But at the same time, maybe he was fearful for that would actually come up sometime. I don't know. So we've seen some Anderson Cooper. All right. Let's see what else. There was something. Let's see. This is some guy. I think the Ukrainian ambassador to Japan.
We already very well equipped to protect us against tanks, and it works. We have very good equipment supplied by Turkey, Bayraktar unmanned vehicles, UAV, and they are very effective. We already use
I don't want to make fun of any of these people. It's hard for me not to try and do some sort of like Russian accent, though. It's like, just come right. And I know he's not Russian, he's Ukrainian, but similar.
So that's what we expect. That's number two. We expect right now, not deliberating again, not deliberations, not in a week, not in a month, but right now to establish as harsh sanctions as possible. We must remove this villain from Kremlin. This is absolutely unacceptable that one person created such a crisis.
And it does seem to be one person. Like, Putin is pretty much the end all be all, from what I understanding, like, of things that go in Russia. Like, he makes all the decisions. Like, he has advisors and shit. But it's not like here. Like, even if I know Biden can just, you know, or president. Let's just use president in general, so we don't get all. But like, the president is the one that declares the war. But at the same time, if like, you know, like, if he couldn't just arbitrarily be like, let's invade Mexico. You know what I'm saying? Like some of the liberalist people thought like, oh, Trump's gonna, like, at the end of the day, Trump was not, even if Trump was thought at one point he might be that crazy enough to do something like that, it wouldn't go down like that, because we don't live in it's not a, no matter how much you dislike the government or whatever, right? We don't live in a dictatorship here in America. Sorry. So he couldn't just unilaterally say like, well, there would be some oversight. You know, that's kind of what some of the Constitution prescribed anyway. Like, you got the three branches, the checks and balances is what they called it. What I learned when I was in school is what they called it. God knows what they call it now, but I'm sure maybe checks and balances are like discriminatory. I don't know.
For the war, there is a UN resolution.
Look at that. Don't fuck with that dude, though. Look at him. Putin looks serious. Motherfucker. God damn.
Practices that contribute to the...
Oh, yeah, they've been calling him a war criminal, too. So, dude, I'm not like some crazy doomsayer. But goddamn, motherfucking, if Putin's this crazy, because he knows, like, if this ends and they sanction him and, like, he might get deposed, you know, if everything gets really fucked in Russia. You know what I'm saying? Unless somebody stands up to him over there. And then that speech that he made, where he was basically saying, whatever you do, we're going to, if you try to fuck with us, we're going to levy the strongest shit you've ever seen. You ain't ever seen nothing like that in your entire fucking life. That seemed kind of crazy to me, so I don't know. I hate to think that he would think that, but motherfuckers that go on do like crazy ass shit sometimes. I mean, I know Putin seems rational, maybe not ethical, but rational in general, and he has a reason behind things. Maybe he wouldn't let it get that far. Maybe he is blustering or, you know, like showing up too much bravado, like, oh, look, we did this. you can let us do. It's like this, like you can let a bully do so much, right? And then like they're gonna take what they can, right? What's that old saying? You give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So you got to kind of keep an eye on that.
This is, from my point of view, the crime itself. We do have right movements. As
Like my argument with like, is this? I don't even know. Video may contain light patterns or image. Is this?
You feel sad. Yes. Maybe you'll be sad. Okay? Feel it now.
Don't seem like they're playing. Oh wait, maybe I can click. You can, live. I guess they're not doing it like 24/7. That's something else. Huh. Let's see. Oh, this is like a live. Like earlier, this is where there was like people protesting over there in Russia. The Maiden Square. No, this is Kiev. My bad. There was something. There was one. It was in Russia. They were where the Russians. There were a lot of Russian people like protesting the invasion and shit. They were like I think they said they arrested like 1,700 people. So I gotta give them motherfuckers some credit, right? If they're crazy enough to invade another country, I wouldn't want to fuck them with them and get arrested right now in some sort of get arrested in a fucking Russian prison, you know. So I give them props for getting out there and demonstrating against it. So that goes to show you. That's also what I've also been hearing too. Is like maybe Putin is not as much power, like by the common people, because apparently things haven't gone as well for all these years. He just kind of knows the best way to stay in power, which he learned from like his years and years in KGB. And then also a lot of the people like he appointed, they're like KGB people too. So you never know. But yeah, so I gotta give him props for standing up and doing that. But I would sure not want to be out there. Like you think like people were crying about like what happened to Black Lives Matter and shit like that, or these trucker guys up in Canada. I would not want to be protesting in Russia right now against Russia invading Ukraine. Yeah, that's just how I see it. I think it would go poorly for you personally, but still give them props. This is German. This is a
Das russische
German.
Militär bereits alle ukrainischen Luftwaffenstützungspunkte ausgeschaltet.
So it's like sometimes they're showing like good like video. This is supposed to be
sollen Panzer zeigen.
Panzerangriff auf die Ukraine. This is like showing like I've seen this on some other channels. This is like them like coming in like. But also I heard I don't know if they're gonna do anything to Belarus because like Belarus like they supposedly from what I'm hearing, some of the troops came in from Belarus into Ukraine. I don't know if they ever confirmed if they're Belarusian troops or they were Russian troops and they just came in through Belarus. So I don't know if we'll do anything to Belarus or sanction Belarus. I don't even know if it would be worth it, Let's see. Let's see if I can. It says 57 people died and 169, I guess, injured.
Auch schnelle Eingreiftruppen. Gleichzeitig bereitet man sich in Polen auf einen Flüchtlingsansturm aus dem Nachbarland vor. Krankenhauskapazitäten werden erweitert.
I'm mostly just doing that for the
Inzwischen
video.
liefern sich russische Einheiten Bodenkämpfe mit der ukrainischen Armee. In der Hauptstadt Kiew wird Luftalarm gegeben. Wer die Reden des russischen Präsidenten bislang für Drohungen gehalten hat, ist nun eines Besseren belehrt worden. Ich fordere Sie auf, sofort Ihre Waffen niederzulegen und nach Hause zu gehen. Um es noch einmal klarzustellen, alle Soldaten der ukrainischen Armee, die dieser Forderung nachkommen, können das Kampfgebiet ungehindert verlassen und zu ihren Familien zurückkehren. Und jetzt einige sehr wichtige Worte für all diejenigen, die versuchen, von außen einzugreifen. Wer versucht, uns zu hindern, wer noch mehr Bedrohung für unser Volk und unser Land schafft, der sollte wissen, dass Russland sofort reagieren wird. Und zwar mit einer solchen Konsequenz, wie es sie noch nie in der Geschichte gegeben hat.
I can read the German a lot better than I can hear it. Like the way he's speaking, it's been so long. I was just seeing if they were showing any, when I was looking at news stuff, this might be in English.
Dangsform. Im Weltsicherheitsrat richtet der ukrainische Botschafter eindringliche Worte an seinen Amtskollegen.
Some members of this council
Wir verurteilen die Aggression, die sie gegen mein Volk verüben. Es gibt kein Fegefeuer für Kriegsverbrecher. Sie fahren direkt zur Hölle, Botschafter.
that you launch on my people.
All right, let's see. They got some live coverage. Unless y'all want to see the weather. Let's see what else. There's some Biden shit. We haven't seen none of that.
Banking system or other sanctions at your disposal. Respectfully, sir, what more are you waiting for?
Specifically, with the sanctions we've imposed exceed SWIFT. The sanctions we imposed exceed anything that's ever been done. The sanctions we imposed have generated 2/3 of the world joining us. They are profound sanctions. Let's have a conversation in another month or so to see if they're working.
Now, there was a call today with members of Congress that we mentioned, and Congresswoman Young Kim, who is a Republican from Southern California, pressed Treasury.
All right. If I was in Ukraine, that sucks because Biden's just like, let's give it a month and see what happens. That's pretty fucked because a month of war in your country is a scary proposition, right? And then also, if this shit's going on after a month, that kind of does lean on Biden. I mean, not Biden, but Putin actually does plan on occupying Ukraine. Because if he was doing what he said he was going to do, why wouldn't he go in there, free these people that are being genocided, you know, and stuff like that? Like, a lot of people are getting like, why is he attacking Kiev? Or if he doesn't plan on... Okay, just think about it. If you're doing any kind of military incursion, whatever it is, you have to try and knock out things that they could use against you, no matter what your plans are. So if he shot at, and from what I'm hearing now, it was mostly at, like, I think it was like airports or military things, installations, maybe like some like anti-aircraft missile areas or something like that. You would do that regardless. So that, to me, that doesn't. Now, if he has troops march into Kiev, or if he starts bombing like large swaths, or like takes it beyond that, especially in Kiev, then yeah, that changes things. But just to attack some of those positions, that's just a strategic thing, regardless of the reasoning behind it. She looks like an actress. I don't know who she is, but she looks like. Let's listen.
Would do what it could to prevent them from rising too much. What is the impact that Americans might expect to see, and does the administration really have much power to prevent big price increases?
Not entirely. So, look, I think everyone has just come to accept that prices at the pump are probably going back up again. If you haven't seen it, when you go to fill up already, they should be going up. Oil prices today over $100. You generally tend to see the effects of that in the weeks to come. So what we're probably going to see is the national average gas price getting closer to $4. People in California watching might think, what are you talking about? I'm already paying that. But the national average should get closer to that. And then expect a trickle-down effect from what's going on in Russia and Ukraine to affect everything from, you know, home heating oil, all kinds of energy and fuel prices. Just expect all of that to be a little more expensive. We're not going to get any more relief there, probably not in the short term at least.
NBC News Now anchor Allison Morris. Remember, you can join her here.
What am I hearing? Do I got that? Oh, that's why. That was like the ambient sound of that place in Kiev. Well, they said they were supposed to attack at like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 3 o'clock in the morning there. I don't see nothing. I ain't hearing anything, so. But that was like what America said. But then America said they was going to do something, and a lot of people were like, oh, no, and then they did. So it's kind of like, I don't know. Well.
Weekdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern.
It's like an ad, Russian cyber threat.
Russia is pretty consistent in their not only capability, but intent to cause disruption. If we look back to the 2015 cyber attack in Ukraine that took down their electric power system, happened again in 2016, going after the transmission electric system. So
why didn't they do that then?
On the big stage for showing the intent to kind of cross that line and get to destructive actions.
Just outside of Baltimore, cybersecurity professionals from Dragos Incorporated work on protecting the most critical infrastructure we have: our water supply, our electrical grid, our transportation systems.
Every state actor out there is consistently trying to get into these industrial environments. The ability to still intimidate and cause confusion and cause pressure on your geopolitical adversaries through cyber and industrial ends up being a pretty effective tool for them.
This is high-level cyber warfare played out with Lego, a toy city meant to represent the lives of millions of people around the world who need protection from cyber invaders.
In any modern town, you've got everything from, gas pipelines.
They said playing with Legos as a kid would never bring you anywhere, huh? Alright, that's not really anything. Let's see. That's just in general. They said that he's having a long ass press conference. The Japanese guy. So I don't know if it's gonna show some naked people.
On the market. Dina Demetrius shows us which vehicles earned a top spot.
Oh, I should look at this. I almost got killed in a car crash.
Today's vehicles are better at protecting drivers and passengers. This year, 101 models earned a top safety pick.
I guess it's got to be, because I had two, I was going and the car that hit me was going. I didn't hit it straight. So wouldn't that force speed? I forgot my physics a little bit. Force is mass times acceleration, right? So it's going to be more mass and more acceleration.
Audi and earned 11. Volvo was given 10 of the top awards.
Cars continue to improve, both in terms of how...
I mean, I probably would have been dead if I would have had that same exact crash like 20 years prior or so.
IIHS President David Hart.
If everything else was the same, for how fucked up I got out of that crash, yeah, I think I would have died.
It has to provide really good visibility for the driver and keep the glare reduced.
That didn't really help me. I seen the shit coming. I couldn't do nothing about it.
To try harder to earn an award next year. The IIHS is going to adopt tougher standards, including a new side impact test,
which is going to be a much tougher test, run at a higher speed and with a heavier barrier.
And pedestrian crash prevention systems will also undergo tests at night.
A lot of pedestrian fatalities occur at night, and so it's really important that these systems that are designed to prevent pedestrian collisions...
That'd probably be good, man. Because I'll tell you this, like, a lot of people don't pay any fucking attention. They'll just walk out in the middle of the fucking road, like...
Now, you would think that race car drivers take the winter off.
But what about if they go to Florida? It's not that cold down there. Let's see what this guy's talking about.
Russia. What do you make of what's happening right now and the way Vladimir Putin is playing this?
Well, it's brutal and it's tragic, but he's not really holding very many cards, and I think he's miscalculated in a monumental, historic way in what he's done. Normally, at the beginning of a war, you have a rally around the flag quality. In any country that goes to war, people assume that the government must have some reason to do so. We saw something quite different today in Moscow and around the country.
What are you talking about? They did the same thing for us if we went to war. It doesn't.
You had Alexei Navalny, who's the main opposition leader, who's in prison. He stood up in court and denounced the war. And so even though the Putin regime is threatening people with essentially life sentences, they've said that if you participate in demonstrations, it will be on your record, quote, for life.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I was talking about.
People are demonstrating. And when the Russian boys start coming home in body bags, it's going to get worse. So this is not going to get better for Vladimir Putin as time goes on. And he also got a lot more than he bargained for from the Ukrainians, who, even if their government is toppled and a puppet is imposed on them.
Well, that's why Putin was saying, like, that. This is what I'm obviously I can't speak Russian, but they were saying that's what he was saying in one of his speeches. He was telling them, he said, "Lay down your arms, don't fight us, so we don't have to kill you." You know what I'm saying? And then I've heard that, like, there are deaths, like, and I've also heard that, like, they said they killed there's dead people on both sides at this point. Let's see what Putin's saying here.
Aggressively, and somehow you're not. Just look at that. Pot calling the kettle black.
So how much of this is about Washington and Moscow rather than just Ukraine? Is this about Ukraine, or is this about something bigger, a bigger message he wants to send?
I would cover up the S guy, but y'all might call me racist since he's black, so I'll cover up this old white guy.
Remember, he was a KGB agent, and he was tremendously embarrassed, as he told former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright when they first met 22 years ago, when he was first coming into power. He was, quote, embarrassed by the breakup of the Soviet Union. So, and then he was further embarrassed in the Maidan Revolution of 2014 and 15 in Ukraine, where his puppet was thrown out and had to go with his tail between his legs to Moscow. And we had a democratically elected, Western-looking government in Ukraine right on his border.
So he's already fucked this up once. If he fucks it up again,
a puppet as a buffer between him and Western Europe, and that's what he wants. And so he's trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, and it's going to be very expensive for him across the board. Not to mention the fact that thousands and thousands of people will lose their lives, and that will be on his account. And he will have a hard time living that down.
With regard to that expense, I did want to ask you about the military strategy. We just got a tweet from the UK's defense ministry in which it noted that, among other things,
I love how that we get like military information from tweets now. I'm like a boomer with this shit. I'm like, I am a boomer. Probably, I guess everybody would. I'm fucking old compared to most people on the internet, but damn.
Basically, the Dnieper River runs through Ukraine. Chernobyl's up at the top in the north. Kyiv's a little bit south of it. On the other side of the river is Chernihiv. So apparently that front for Russian forces has not quite opened up yet. They've taken Chernobyl, which already gives them like a north-south path into Kyiv. But this is another approach that apparently, according to the UK's defense ministry, has not been breached yet. Before I have to let you go with regard to the military push into Ukraine, how far do you think Vladimir Putin would be willing to go in order to take this country?
Oh, I think he'll go all the way to Kyiv, and he probably will be successful. His forces are overwhelmingly powerful.
I'm sorry, Jonathan, but I beg your pardon. I didn't ask the question properly. I don't mean geographically how far. I mean, to what lengths do you think he would go? Is there anything he would not do, for example, to secure a victory in Kyiv? That's more what I'm getting at before we go.
Well, not a lot that he wouldn't do. You know, he's been brandishing nuclear weapons in recent days, so he's kind of all in on this.
That's what I worry about. That's like in the back of my mind. It's hard not to worry about that. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
he's going to have to settle in.
if one nuke goes off, we're fucking done. Like, who's he gonna nuke? Is he gonna nuke Ukraine, or is he gonna like, or is like he gonna get so bad that somebody else steps in and so he nukes them? See, when we used nukes, nobody else had nukes. So now that everybody has, well, not everybody, but a lot of people have nukes.
That was the end of the Soviet Empire. It was their Vietnam, and this time they got a Vietnam right on their doorstep. Moscow's got a big problem here, despite what will be some early military victories.
Jonathan Alter, appreciate you making time for us tonight, sir.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, obviously, I'm not an expert, or I'm not Putin, but to me, it makes no sense. Like, I don't know.
Woke up to the sound of explosions. People have been in long lines getting food and gas while they can. Some are holding prayer books as they prepare for what's next. Before we go tonight, from our partners at Sky News, correspondent John Sparks has the story from Kharkiv.
The people of Kharkiv now live a new reality. Their city.
Yeah, no matter how much Americans bitch and moan, like, unless you were actually in a war, like in the military, or you happen to live in the Civil War, you've never had to really worry. Like, I guess there was worries back in the day, like in World War II or something, and like Cuba Missile Crisis, like, and they did do like those drills, but not military. There's never been a military incursion into the United States you know, in anybody's lifetime that still exists, you know. There's maybe a little bit of threats, but we've never experienced that, you know. A lot of other countries experience that on a daily basis. Like, no matter how bad you think all the rioting and shit from, like, all the protests, like, nothing compared to that, you know.
In Kharkiv,
and obviously this isn't bad. When I was a kid,
and diesel is fierce.
I remember seeing when we invaded Iraq the first time and all that shit, right? And then like it was the big thing. It was like the Kosovo and like Czech Republic and shit and all that. Like they were like, you know.
And we were very stressed and worried, so we didn't have enough time to take these clothes or something like that. Just the most important things. Even I don't know if I took everything important, or
like we would be losing our fucking minds over here. God knows what people would do. They'd probably shooting each other in the street. Because what happened when we had a little bit of a tipsy issue with like people were like hoarding fucking toilet paper and gasoline and stupid ass shit. Like we would be so fucked, you know.
The Ukrainian army has taken up positions on the city's outskirts, but their personnel are badly outnumbered. The Russian military crossed the frontier.
Plus, they've been talking about this. Russia's been moving troops for like what, like a month or two?
In a place called Chuhuyev. The fire service said a boy was killed in the attack. This country knows the price it is likely to pay, and the people of Kharkiv are getting prepared. The largest line we witnessed was formed by those who wanted to give blood.
Я не маю бойового досвіду, я не можу захищати країну зі зброєю в руках, і все, що я можу зробити для того, щоб тут, в принципі, був мир, хоч скільки можна, щоб втримались наші бійці, які там ось поруч захищають зараз.
The blood clinic's manager, Yuri Vahavenko, took us for a tour. He said he hadn't seen it this busy since the beginning of the conflict with Russia in 2014. I'm just doing my job, he said. The heroes here are those who give blood.
Speaking of foreign language, sorry, I don't know why I find that funny.
Life-changing decisions are made in an instant. City residents, Alina and Yuri, will seek shelter in neighboring Poland, and they worry they'll never return.
Yeah, I wonder, is that going to be, like, that's another thing. It's an economic crisis for, like, these other countries, too. Like, are they going to want to take a bunch of refugees, or have they shut any of these options down yet? I mean, if you got a bunch of, like, you know, think how we cry and moan about the goddamn Mexican people trying to come, well, they're not all Mexican, whatever. People trying to come in through the southern border. What would we do if, like, all these people, you know what I'm saying?
3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. GMT, and we still want to hear your thoughts and your questions about the situation in Ukraine. We're at NBC Now tonight on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram.
I'm on TikTok, y'all.
Leave us a voicemail, 888-575.
I don't really have any questions because y'all don't have any answers. So why would I ask you?
Do stay with NBC News Now for the latest on this fast-moving story. We are back tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. GMT.
It really, like, I mean, there's been some shit that's changed since last night. It was about last night, a little later than this time, when a lot of this shit was going down. So, but I don't know what has changed that much since then. What's this, the United Nations? Looks like it's just a UNICEF commercial. What are they doing? God damn, this motherfucker in Japan is still talking. Al Jazeera, what are they talking about? I guess I can go back to CNN. Let's see.
Zero live from Doha, also coming up.
Putin's aggression against Ukraine will end up costing Russia dearly, economically and strategically.
Well, that's kind of also what Putin said. So maybe Biden's so brain-addled that he's going to nuke Russia too. Where are the buttons? I don't know. Where are the buttons?
Crisis in the making. Ukrainians flee to neighboring countries to escape.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's some fucked up shit, right?
In solidarity with Ukraine across the world, but back home, police cracked down on demonstrators across Russia.
Yeah, they don't fuck around. Like, it ain't no, like, I'm gonna sit in my truck for a month and honk the horn. They just roll up in there in Russia. I wonder if there's a BBC footage, because I love the BBC's, like, their robot camera thing. It's so fucked.
The day that Russian forces launched a multi-pronged invasion of Ukraine. It follows a wave of international condemnation. EU leaders met in Brussels to finalize what they're calling severe sanctions targeting financial, energy, and the transport sectors. Washington has announced export controls on high-tech products, and along with the UK is targeting Russian banks and oligarchs. It's
oligarchs.
That's a fun sea and air attack on Ukraine, which has been denounced by world leaders as barbaric. Kiev says that 137 soldiers and civilians have been killed. The UN estimates that around 100,000 Ukrainians have fled their homes. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky called the attack a declaration of war on all of Europe, warning of a new Iron Curtain. He signed a decree to mobilize all able-bodied men of fighting age to join in defending the country. Russia's President Vladimir Putin says the assault aims
I'm good. I'm unable-bodied. Although I guess I'd shoot a Russian if he tried to take me.
Ukrainian forces have been battling
in a video game
separatists for years. Meanwhile, there have been protests in support of Ukraine across the world, including in Russia, where police have detained more than 1,700.
I guess there's no live BBC footage.
Well, speaking late on Thursday night, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky
maybe I'd have to sign in.
Intelligence his government have Russian forces has marked both him and his family as high-value targets. He went on to pay tribute to those who've died since the Russian assault began early on Thursday.
Sadly, today we lost 137 heroes, our citizens. 10 of them were officers. 316 people have been wounded. Defending the Zemini Island, all our border guards died a heroic death, but they have not surrendered. They will all be awarded posthumously the title of the Hero of Ukraine.
They'd probably rather be alive,
their lives for Ukraine be remembered forever.
EU officials have held an emergency late-night summit to discuss the unfolding crisis in Ukraine. President of the
I've seen a video, like, they were supposedly, like, they were showing, like, I think that's what he's talking about. There was some, like, little island or, like, a little place on the Black Sea where they said, fuck you, you're not, you know, they asked them to, like, surrender, and they said, fuck you. That might be what he was talking about right there.
President Putin chose to bring back war to Europe. This is a fully fledged invasion in Ukraine. And this fundamentally puts into question
Who is this?
our peace order. But today I also say the European Union stands united. Tonight, European leaders were fully aligned in condemning the atrocious and unprovoked attacks. Now we have to meet the moment. We will hold the Kremlin accountable.
Al Jazeera's Andrew Simmons reports now from Ukraine's capital, Kiev.
The Russian invasion was launched with terrifying speed and against a wide range of targets right across the country. The long military build-up around Ukraine's borders finally unleashed by order of the Kremlin. Helicopter gunships, fighter jets, missiles, tanks, convoys of armored vehicles are all involved in what Russia calls a military operation.
I thought they were calling it a peacekeeping operation yesterday.
They include Ukraine's airfields and military bases.
We're gonna peacekeep the fuck out of you by blowing you up. That makes some fucking sense, doesn't it?
To show the destruction of the city's airfield. But shrapnel and shells are also reported to have landed in civilian areas.
I seen this earlier too. I thought maybe if I was watching something live, then if something happened, it would be more than just watching videos.
I thought it might just involve Donetsk and Luhansk, but I didn't ever think it would involve Kiev.
Most likely, war has now begun. Everyone is leaving. Everywhere is shut.
I hate the country that started this war. I speak as a mother and as a Ukrainian, and I call on the whole world to help us and stop this aggressor.
Ukraine's government declared martial law.
I had a conversation with US President Joe Biden
The US is starting to gather international...
Why did the translators say it like that? I had a conversation with U.S. President Joe Biden. I'm sorry, this isn't funny, but goddamn. Sometimes.
The Russian military offensive follows a carefully choreographed strategy of Russia's President Vladimir Putin. He unilaterally recognized two separatist...
Alright, let's see what Wolf Blitzer's saying. I guess Anderson Cooper went to bed.
Of World War II and the Blitz and people hunkering down underground for hours on end, trying to keep their families safe. There were so many families down
Hi,
there,
Wolf
so many
Blitzer.
children, babies. People brought their pets there, their parents, just desperately trying to escape the strikes that had been falling down. Some people were angry. Many of them were sad, but mostly
That would suck. Like, I guess it's... Look at that cat. That poor cat's like...
We
It's
never really believed that our, neighbor can just come and just grab our land and tell us what to do. And
yeah, that's pretty fucked, man. Like, I can't imagine. That's like some terrible shit. Like, gotta go hide in a subway station. I was watching something earlier today, and they were talking about... They have, like, some bomb shelters, I'm guessing, from back in the day. And they were, like... It said dusting them off. I guess they were getting them prepared or whatever. But they said they didn't have enough for everyone in Kiev. I'm assuming they got them in other places, too, but I don't know. They were talking specifically about Kiev. Or I was always said it Kiev, but I guess it's Kiev. Or, you know, how you say it in Ukrainian. But they still don't. They still haven't released any. I wonder if there's a way to watch like a Russian newscast. I would like to see what they're saying about it, just like as a comparison. Because, like, no matter what, I don't trust CNN or whatever, you know, or blah, 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 blah. But, like, they are privately owned things, like, nobody wants to say Wolf Blitzer.
In Moscow to Putin launching this totally unprovoked war.
Yeah, there were protests later in the day, not just here in Moscow, but in more than 50 cities across Russia. And we went down and witnessed some of those protests. More than 900 people arrested by riot-clad police at the protest. The government said these protests weren't allowed, that there was no authorization for them. Indeed, the government went beyond that. It warned people that if you come to the protest, you could get arrested. And if you get arrested, then you could end up with a criminal record. And if you have a criminal record, then that's going to blight your future job prospects, your work prospects. So it was a really harsh message from the government, and it seems very clear from what we saw that President Putin is not brooking any dissent from people who disapprove of it.
Trying to find this thing. It's showing me some Russian shit, but I seen it on the U.S. I was trying to see, because I was being told, or I was hearing that they were doing like this like crazy, like somehow Putin is saying like the people running Ukraine are Nazis or some shit, like literally Nazis, and he said he's going to denazify Ukraine, right? I think that. Like the president of the country is Jewish, and like there's a high Jewish population there, so I don't know. But of course, yeah, I guess the Nazis didn't kill just Jews; they killed Russians too. So I guess like, you know, in his mind, you know, like you know, or I don't know, he's kind of loony. But like that's what every place like that does. There's always going to be some sort of propaganda, you know. So.
Getting out on the streets tonight at short notice, knowing that they could be arrested, that's still quite a relatively large number for Moscow and the rest of the country.
That's quite a statement indeed from these folks over there in Russia. President Biden, as you know, Nick, announced more sanctions today against Russia, says Putin will be a pariah on the international stage. Does that resonate, those kinds of words, where you are in Moscow?
You know, he met with members of his business community today, so we can read into that, you know, oligarchs included, potentially some of those who are being targeted with sanctions themselves. And his message to them was, look, we knew this was coming. There's going to be some economic hardships, but...
This isn't funny, but damn. Like, look, they're because I don't know if I showed any of it, but there was... Like, Biden was talking about, like, they're sanctioning, like, people, you know, like, related to Putin, too. Like, not even just the country chef, but, like, going after people's wealth. So it's, like, from Putin's chef to the RT editor. RT is, like, the Russian television over there that's, like, state-run or whatever. They're going to get expected on an EU sanctions list. It's like, God, he's like the dude's got to be like, what? I just cooking borscht. Why the fuck you just sanction me? Comrade, you know, it's like, fuck. Is that him? That's not the chef. He looks sad. Who is this guy? Russia's defense minister. Like, he doesn't look like he's having a good time, right? You know, Putin's like, yo, we do the fucking thing. We killed the motherfuckers. That dude looks like Putin. That could be his. See, from what I understand, like, a lot of his top brass people, they're all former KGB people, so they're probably all similar ages. That dude looks like he would fuck you up, though. This guy right here, and his fucking name is Igor Shuvalov. Shuvalov, this planet off this mortal coil, shuffle off. This dude was a fucking assassin in the KGB. He had to be. Look at that motherfucker. He looks like he stepped straight out of, like, Rocky 4 or 3 or whichever one it was. Or, like, he was, like, somebody that Liam Neeson had to kill and taken. Jesus. Oh, she looks mean as fuck, Margarita Samoyed. She just looks like she would fuck you up. She's like, don't fuck with me. I will fuck cut your dick off. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I was trying to find, like, see if I could find, like I said, some, like, I wanted to see that Russian propaganda. Not to, like, spread it, but, like, I just was curious, like, how bad it was and how propaganda-y it is. Like, because, I mean, like, they're, like, hinting at, like, he was just, like, he was kind of basically, because that's, like, one of his, like, his moral justification for the war is that, you know, they're those Russian people in, what is it, Donetsk? You know, region or whatever. Donbass. Sorry, I'm the names and shit, right? Donbass region. Yeah, that's what he's supposed to do, right? Oh, they even have funny little videos over there too. Let's watch this. Gee, they're quick to put this up. YouTube is like quick. I guess they don't want to get sanctioned. RT is funded in whole or in part by the Russian government. Like, you think this was up here before? Before this all started? I don't know. I never tried to watch the Russian TV network or whatever, right? But look at this. They're even they're not super evil. Look. Look, it's cats. This is what they wanted. This was their plan. This was the plan. Oh my God, Russia has bred giant mutant cats, and that's what they're going to attack the Ukraine with next, right? And this is just their battle plans, right? So they're like showing this. Oh my God, I fucking solved it. It's like that movie with the giant radioactive ants or the rabbits, the Night of the Lepus or Lepus. Ultraman. Way to go, Russia. See, not everything you do is bad, is it? Oh, look at that comment. Oh, we're bombing Ukraine. Have a cute cat video. When did this come out? Oh shit, it literally did come out yesterday. Fuck. Okay, we got off topic. That was good to see Russia. What is it like? Oh, they're on commercial break. You gonna go to CVS and get some fucking pills? You want some fucking pills? Ah, they're great. Ah, they got a cat. Oh my god, the cat's fighting trains. The cat gets Allegra. Oh my god, fuck. There. You get that at CNN for me watching some of your video on stream. You got a free ad. Not that anybody watches or goes. CNN will resume momentarily. Well, suck my dick. And then commercial break. I want a commercial break. No, I'm just kidding. Not down. CNN, you need to make some more money? You fucking capitalist pigs. Let's see. Let's listen to the weather.
Report right now in Japan, where that snow finally starting to wind down on Friday across western areas of Honshu.
It's gonna snow in Japan. Fuck!
A bit below average here.
We're so fucked.
The Korean Peninsula above average. Seoul's got a high.
I'm guessing that's in Celsius, right?
We'll see you soon. Take care.
You take care too, buddy. Where are we at? Let's see. Nothing. Let's see.
Finances war machine. So I think the president needs to, one, show leadership, and secondly, he needs to show that he can help them wean themselves off of Russian energy in a way that they can maintain their prosperity, but not finance what Putin wishes to do.
And while many of your fellow Republicans have made strong statements in support of Ukraine, some have also taken the opportunity to strongly criticize the president, including the number 3 House Republican, with this growing.
Of course, anytime you can.
Is it appropriate to show our domestic divisions for the world to see at this particular time?
Look at this goof. Oh, you can't see his face. Oh, I paused it.
We've lost Senator Cassidy.
But look at that beautiful picture.
All right, our thanks to the senator for his time. And President Biden today said Russia's invasion of Ukraine has led to a complete rupture in U.S.-Russian relations. And for some time, for some in Moscow, it's also led to a divide, with some even daring to
Are we not getting? Does it not have? Sometimes the subtitles work, sometimes they don't. Yeah, this is these motherfuckers. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Oh, what's this guy saying?
Decision by Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine. They don't feel that this is a man that represents their interests, and they're just taken away, put in these trucks over here. You can see the riot police.
Well, they arrested him. They're like, oh, you protest? Come with me.
Arrests across the country, in fact, at protests like these in over 50 cities. A large number of people here in Russia do believe what Vladimir Putin says because they've been watching and listening a lot of the state-controlled media. But for these mostly young people here, it takes a special kind of bravery to protest.
I agree 100%. Way more brave to protest over there than over here.
So, why are you here, ladies? Why have you come?
We would like to support our friends in Ukraine, and not only we're just against the war in any kinds of this. That's why. That is the reason.
Do you feel scared being here?
Yes, a little bit.
I mean,
shame for our government.
Last night, blasts were heard around Kiev as Russia launched.
Well, this is good to see this too, because we used to always demonize, like, and it happens. Oh, okay.
Saying there was no other option.
There was no other whatever. Fuck that. That's so fucking stupid, right? Like, there was no other. Like, did they try to reach out to, like, was there any proof of this? Like, if any of this shit was true, somebody wouldn't have backed you on it? Like, I don't know about all that. Like, I'll give them, like, we probably backed out, but they also backed out on some shit too. There's I can't remember the name of it. I think it's the Bulgarian memorandum or some shit, where they took all there was nuclear missiles left in Ukraine after the Soviet Union fell and everything, right? Well, there was made some big deal if Ukraine gave those up, that Russia, U.S., and, like, I don't know, U.K. or something, we would make sure that they were safe. You know what I'm saying? So now, if they hadn't given those up, would Russia have invaded them? I don't know. So it's really strange. So yeah, if this is all they wanted, like, why would they still be doing stuff? I still don't know. I guess I don't want to go into, like, the idea that they're going to do something worse. Could they? I guess. But, I don't know. Like, man.
We know that the Ukrainian defenses were quite weak, and so when those forces came up from Crimea up to that small town, the port town Kherson, that we talked about earlier, that apparently fell pretty quickly, and they're struggling to maintain the south. So all in all, we knew that this would be very difficult for the Ukrainian military. That they're outmatched, outgunned with the Russians, but it's their territory. And eventually it'll probably turn into some sort of an insurgency, a militia, as they defend their homeland with what they have.
Russia's attack right now looks like, as you were just describing, really a three-pronged effort from the north, the east, and the south. Walk us through what Russia might be trying to do, what Putin's end game might be.
Yeah, Lindsay, you and I talked about this a couple of days ago. We didn't know then, and I don't think we know now. We know that what Mr. Putin wants is, we know he wants the elected government in Kyiv to fall. We know that he wants to put a puppet government in, a malleable government that will bend to his wishes, that won't flirt with NATO or EU, joining the EU. So how does he do that? He can either go in and assassinate the leadership, which is not beyond the Russians. We've heard the Pentagon today say that Russian special forces are actually surprised. I'm not sure why, but the Pentagon was surprised at the amount of Russian special forces that have infiltrated different parts of the country. And we know that there were hit lists, so they can go in and just assassinate people. The other way to do it would be to go around the city of Kyiv and to lay siege, to envelop that city and basically strangle it. Just turn off the power, turn off the water, and wait for the government to surrender. The last thing is they could probably come in and take a good, 1/3 of the country, that eastern part of the country, up to the Dnieper River, which remember it's sort of divided north-south coming south of Kiev down to the Black Sea. So it really just depends on what Mr. Putin wants.
And that's something I was curious about.
No, I don't think their strategy is bad. Like, I think they're gonna, and I don't think Ukraine really has nowhere near what, obviously know what Russia has militarily. It's kind of what, like, didn't we took Iraq in like a day? We should. There shouldn't have been no reason why we didn't. Did we hold it though, or was it hard to hold, or did we really? That's when it's going to be difficult because we didn't do that either. But I also think Putin may be willing to do shit we weren't. Start killing people, rounding them up, doing a lot of worse things, argue what we did was ethical or not. I do think we didn't try to commit like war crimes. Now, Putin might be different on the other hand, so he might give him a chance to hold it a little bit better than we did in like Iraq and shit. That's just an idea. City of Angels, City of Death. That sounds like a video game.
This morning, the best new.
We'll see who laughs last. I think that's what Putin's saying. We'll see who laughs last, Komradsky. United Nations and work sweatshops. Guilty. That's also other shit. Belarus. Okay, this is what I was asking earlier.
Country that is another major player in this, but hasn't been talked about. The Kremlin essentially saved the rule of Belarusian strongman Alexander Lukashenko when protesters took him on in 2020. And now Putin has called in a favor. Ukraine says Russian troops used the country to launch part of their
Does he mean like strongman, like what I'm thinking of from like the circus?
Individuals and entities, including the country's defense minister. The EU also says it will impose sanctions on Belarus as well. And this is on top of the sanctions the country is already experiencing over its stolen election and for forcing a commercial jet to land in the country so it could arrest and imprison a dissident.
Romania says they're preparing for an influx of several 100,000 Ukrainians fleeing the conflict. Have other nations indicated what they're preparing for?
Yeah, Europe.
Yeah, this is going to have more ramifications than even just in Ukraine.
People. It's one of the largest countries on the continent, and we saw today roads are clogged with people trying to flee the fighting. Many have packed up and are heading east. They are trying to get to neighboring countries, many of them belonging to NATO. The head of the UN Refugee Agency warned the humanitarian impact could be devastating. Nearly 5,000 troops from the 82nd Airborne have been deployed to Poland to help with the influx. Polish authorities say they have set up reception points for refugees along their border. Some people are already walking into the country. Moldova says it's already seen thousands of people flee as well, while Slovakia and Hungary have deployed troops to help deal with people trying to cross their borders. But we need to point out, this is not to say that all Ukrainians are trying to flee. Many have vowed to take up arms and fight back. Ukraine's armed forces, in fact, released photographs today showing people lining up to volunteer for their army.
China, which has publicly stood beside Russia in recent weeks, is refusing to call this an invasion. How are they characterizing the U.S.'s role in this conflict?
Yeah, this crisis in Ukraine is a major challenge for China. Beijing has always said that countries shouldn't interfere in the internal affairs of another country. Well, what could be more interfering than an invasion? But, China refuses to condemn Putin's actions. And while China has publicly urged restraint on both sides, it's a balancing act for Beijing. Russia and China have been forging an ever closer relationship, but Beijing also wants to maintain good relations with Europe. But at the end of the day, it also boils down to Taiwan. Just how Putin views Ukraine, well, that's how Beijing views Taiwan as part of their country. China has also threatened to take over Taiwan by military force. And if that day comes, it'll want Russia in its corner, as the West will likely throw its support behind Taiwan.
Ian Lee, thank you. As tensions escalate between Russia and Ukraine, the U.S. is preparing.
That's also more definite impacts to the world, because they do bring that up. Does this embolden China to try and do the same shit to Taiwan if nothing gets done here? Taiwan's way smaller than the Ukraine, though, relatively. Is it? I guess it'll affect us because it affects the world, yeah, but like us here in America, I don't think it's going to affect us. I heard that Germany's really fucked. They get like 50% of their damn, damn, where's gas? $6 a fucking gallon, damn. New York City, no. They always get fucked up there. I'm surprised they even use dollar bills anymore. They're like, yeah, you gotta pay, everything's gotta be 10 or more. But yeah, I heard Germany's like 50% of their energy, like their, not energy, but like their fuel and stuff, comes from Russia. That's why we won't ever do anything to Saudi Arabia and shit either, because we know how that's going to fuck us, right?
What we're trying to do is minimize that cost.
Rattled stock investors took a roller coaster ride. The Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 800 points at the open before rebounding on the upside, as traders contemplate what could be Europe's biggest land war since World War II. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
We'll be right back. You're streaming Red and Blue.
That woman's voice, like, I'm sure people would say the same about mine, but like, her voice is weird to me. Well, we haven't reached World War III, and I don't think they bombed anything. So they expected about 3 o'clock in the morning they were going to bomb Kiev or Kiev. It was a crazy world. If we go to World War III, I'll report on it. Is there anything on CNN new? No. Oh, let's hope Russia doesn't destroy the world by tomorrow.